Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you. I have to admit that as a new MEP, I am a little bewildered and staggered, actually, by what I'm hearing. The first question I want to ask is, have we learned absolutely nothing from the recent European elections? We are spending billions of taxpayers' money propagating EU propaganda when millions of people across Europe have rejected the European project. My constituents, who I represent in the northwest of England, would be utterly appalled looking back at this committee's previous spending that €60 million was used to build a house of EU history, whilst they were forced to food banks in order to feed their families, and £14.7 billion on a glorified student exchange programme is outrageous, and I want to know how that's going to help the millions of young people who are unemployed and not in training across Europe. It's a shameless waste of money, self-promotion. It helps absolutely no one, least of all the European Union taxpayers. People want something real. They need real solutions to their real problems, and squandering money, and this is squandering money, plastering a false flag all over everything that you can get your hands on in order to promote a false state, is doing exactly that, squandering it. And UKIP will happily vote to reduce or cut all funding for any lines of the EU culture policies. I'm absolutely appalled by what I'm hearing. We really need to listen to the people of Europe.
Dear colleagues, Madam Chair, I'm quite shocked by what I've just heard. Why? Especially if you listen to citizens. It is these cultural programs, these exchanges, the promotion of education. That's exactly what our citizens are interested in, and that's what will be the very basis of Europe. I'm not just speaking about Germany, but I'm speaking for other regions as well. Through twinning projects, through our cultural relations, through educational exchanges, we manage to get to know other cultures. We manage to find out what other cultures have and how they can enrich our own cultures. So I'd like to suggest to our colleagues from UKIP to perhaps leave the island once in a while. Perhaps that would broaden their horizon a little bit too.
This is my first time in Parliament, and I'm here really to represent a more truthful view of the northwest of England. In the northwest of England, the Labour Party won the election, not UKIP, and it's really important that you all understand that. So when you hear what Louise Bours has to say here, she's not speaking about the majority of the constituents who I represent. And I'm often quite ashamed to be in the same room as somebody who would be so negative about culture and how important it is to our citizens back home, abroad, and how important it is for us to learn to live together, to build peace, to share our cultural connections, to face the challenges of the future together through common actions. That is the only way that we will actually make a safer world for people in the future. I'm actually a creative artist. I've spent 30 years working in culture with young people, with disabled people, with all kinds of people in all kinds of deprived communities. And I can tell you now that working across borders is the only way that these people actually raise and achieve and feel that their aspirations ever come to anything. Right now, in happening not far from here in the Harz Mountains in northern Germany, there is a peace school which was founded in the aftermath of the Second World War. And the artist cooperative that I've been working with for 30 years has been a British partner in that peace school. And it works every summer with young people from right across Europe, using arts and culture as a means of bringing young people together so that they will understand why it's important that we are together, not apart. And the young people who take part in these things have come from a white, rural monoculture. You might think that they would be racist, that they would have opinions about their neighbours which are negative. And when they work together with their partners using arts and culture, music, creativity, what they learn is more about themselves than they learn about other people. They learn how to be tolerant, they learn how to be successful, they learn to be confident, they learn to be articulate. And those young people that I've been working with for years and years and years, who I've known since they are very small and are now in their 20s and 30s, are the successful people from my community who have gone away to university to study, to be aspirational, to succeed in their lives, to establish small businesses, to bring the economy back into their own community. So I totally refute everything that Louise Bours has said, because it is an untruth. When Nigel Farage spoke at the opening of the Parliament in Strasbourg, and when the shameful display of UKIP happened in front of me, I was ashamed that these people are the same nationality as myself. And I'd like all of you in this room to believe now that most of the people back in Britain want to be part of Europe and feel a common cultural cooperation with you. So you have my support. In the Northwest, most of the people voted to have a Labour administration, and in Manchester Town Hall, where every single councillor elected was a Labour councillor, and where Manchester has rebuilt its economy on the back of culture and media, with Media City in Salford, which produces a large amount of broadcasting material, we will see that culture is absolutely fundamental, not just British culture, but international culture and European culture. But let me finish. Nigel Farage said he felt he was hated in Europe. And I wanted to say to Nigel, why don't you come with me, Nigel? Why don't you spend some time having a cultural experience with me right across Europe in all the extraordinary places that I've been, in the welcoming communities that I have spent time in, to feel what it is like to be loved in Europe. The cultural artists that I work with, the young people that I work with, the communities that I work with are loved in Europe. They are not hated, they are welcomed. And they're welcomed because they are open-minded and because they believe that culture, arts and cooperation is a better way to have a common future than to turn our backs on our neighbours.
People who sit on a committee and who reject the very purpose of the committee, I find that difficult to credit. And, you know, perhaps they're speaking to other people. But as I have to say that I find it uncomfortable that cuts are being proposed in the area of the culture budget. Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, I'm somewhat surprised by the fact that the committee meeting has turned into a clash between different British party members. May I ask everyone to observe everyone else's opinions, whatever those opinions may be, whether they are party opinions or opinions held individually. We are here, after all, to be the voice of our citizens, and so I do think we owe it to each other to listen to what the other has to say. It's very important that that applies across the board in the EU.
Thank you, Mrs. TRÜPEL.
Ja, ich würde gerne noch mal
Yes, I'd like to take the floor briefly once again in the light of the clash that has emerged, controversy. I think we can see that nationalism and overcoming nationalism has characterized the last century in Europe, and I think that nationalism clearly doesn't help resolve problems, it rather creates them. We should try to overcome these trends.